We are so close right now to the Beijing Olympics. You can smell the snow. We've been saying that all week with all of our guests because it is so close to being here. And we are so thrilled to be able to welcome another guest on the show today who will be competing in Beijing at her second Olympics. And this is the first time we've actually had somebody from cross-country skiing on since before Pyeongchang, when we spoke to Callum Watson all those years ago. So I'm excited to be able to get back to this sport. Competed in Pyeongchang, as I said, competed in multiple world championships, Asian Games, bronze medalist, 5-time Australian national champion, and we're looking forward to seeing her hit the snow once again to put on the green and gold in Beijing in only a matter of days' time. It's a pleasure to welcome to the show Casey Wright. Casey, first of all, pleasure to have you here and off the podium. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's exciting. I mean, it's exciting for me as an Olympic fan sitting in, a dingy bedroom recording a podcast. What about for yourself? You're at the moment speaking to me from Switzerland, but in a matter of days, you're going to be on a plane going to Beijing, second Olympics. I mean, how are you feeling right now?
I'm starting to get pretty excited. We're coming to the end of our kind of pre-training camp for the games, and so we've got some really good vibes going throughout the team at the moment. Everyone's starting to get pretty amped, and I think we're all just really excited to get there and check it out, what's in store for us.
Because this is a equal biggest cross-country skiing team for Australia. 6 of you going to Beijing, similar to what it was in Pyeongchang. And to put that into context for people who maybe don't realise what size that is, it's the 3rd biggest team Australia has at Beijing, only behind the snowboarding team and the freestyle skiing team. So it's obviously quite a big chunk. I mean, are we kind of in the golden age of cross-country skiing in Australia right now with so many representatives going to an Olympics?
I guess so. I don't know. I think we've also just got really lucky with our quota spots and kind of like in Pyeongchang where we just got lucky with the count back. And for myself, I ended up being the last athlete of all the countries to get a spot to go. And that kind of happened a bit again this year with Hugo as a late addition onto our team. So I think, we're obviously skiing quite well at the moment. I think also we've just had luck on our side as well.
I always love hearing from particularly our Australian winter athletes how they get involved in their sports. Skiing obviously is unique in the fact that there's multiple disciplines. You've got cross country, you've got alpine, you've got freestyle, biathlon, multiple disciplines. How do you fall into cross country skiing out of all the numerous disciplines that are available to you?
Yeah, so both my parents were outdoor teachers. So growing up, we did everything from going rock climbing in the Grampians or Arapiles to canoeing down the Yarra River. And then weekends, we just spent cross-country skiing at Lake Mountain. So for me, it was actually just a normal activity that we just did on the weekends, especially during winter. It wasn't until I think about middle of primary school when we started going on ski trips that I actually realised there was another type of skiing apart from cross-country skiing. I thought cross-country skiing was it. And then, anyway, I got introduced to alpine skiing, but still loved cross-country. And, I was really lucky to have supportive parents, and I got heaps of opportunities to ski and just kind of worked my way into it from there as something I loved. And it's kind of easy just to follow your passion when it's something you want to do.
And outside of skiing, were you active in other sports? Was this something that you were constantly doing, just playing a variety of sports like a lot of kids obviously do?
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly played any sport I could get my hands on, from a young age. And particularly through high school, I was on swim teams, running teams, soccer teams, touch rugby, skiing, go to surf camp, like honestly anything I could do. I would, and it was probably when I was around 16, 17, I think Dad sat me down and just kind of said, look, I love that you love sport, but I can't keep doing like 20 different sports each week. So you're going to have to pick a few and we're going to focus on those. So,
Wow.
so it ended up being, I think swimming might have got the boot around that time, but I kept up with running, soccer and skiing, and then kind of just ended up following the skiing pathway.
And was the Olympics always sort of something that you were striving towards with some of these sports, or, like top level competition, like playing for the Matildas, things like that with the soccer?
Yeah, I think, the Olympics was always a goal. It's like, something you watch on TV as a kid, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I guess I didn't really know what kind of pathway I was going to go down when I was that age. But yeah, I guess towards the end I was pretty competitive in soccer and also skiing, and was hoping to make it, to the top level in either of those. But I've ended up at skiing, and I'm really grateful that this is the pathway I've chosen. It's been like a pretty amazing journey. I've got to go to some pretty awesome places, and now I'm going to my second games. So yeah, I think I picked the right one all those years ago.
I love reading in an interview you did about your admiration for Alyssa Camplin, and remember seeing her, I believe you were 8 in 2002 when she won the gold. I mean, do you sort of remember what it was about seeing her win that gold, and kind of, does that help you when you're skiing, thinking about something like an Olympics a little bit more once you've seen an Aussie top the podium?
Yeah, I don't know if I actually ever watched the event, but I remember just seeing her like on a lot of ads in TV. I think there was like a chewing gum ad that she was on.
That's right, I remember that.
And yeah. And then I think for Christmas that year I might have been given her like autobiography by my by mum. And so I remember just reading that and was like, oh, like she's just like me. We can do winter sports, and and we can do well in winter sports. It's not such a, I don't know, comical thing that an Australian likes snow. So I think definitely having her, she was kind of part of our team support in Pyeongchang, and that was just like, having one of my idols in that sort of role. And my first games was just an absolute dream. It was amazing to get to know her, and just to be able to have her as to give guidance and support, especially like navigating your way through your first Olympic experience, was really like hard to describe what it meant to me. But yeah, it was really special.
And she's back in Beijing, isn't she, as a deputy chef de mission? So I mean, kind of,
yep.
do you go to her still, maybe for some, advice? She obviously went to 2 Olympics, so now at your second Olympics, maybe there's some extra advice she might be able to help you with at a second Olympics versus a first Olympics?
Sure, yeah. Hopefully her schedule's not too busy, and she's getting caught up in meetings and all of those things that I guess those higher support people get to do. But like honestly, like any advice she has to give, I'm always there ready to soak it up.
In terms of cross country itself, obviously with all the different disciplines of skiing, that it's got their unique challenges, but with cross country, it's kind of the marathon of the Winter Olympics and things like that. But it's a lot more than endurance. I mean, there's obviously high speeds involved. There's racing. There's strategic elements. There's so many things about it. I mean, what are some of the challenging aspects of it that maybe some people don't understand when it comes to cross country skiing, particularly say Australians, who we're only witness to watching this sport every 4 years when the Olympics does roll around?
Yeah, there is a lot more than just like our cardiovascular fitness. Particularly now, skiing has become a lot more of a power sport. So, we are in the gym twice a week, like working on muscular strength and making sure we have the strength to be able to produce that power. There's a huge technical side of it. We have 2 techniques. So we have classic, which is, where the skis are staying straight and you're kind of going like this. Then we have skate, where we're in that V shape. So we've basically got 2 different techniques within the one sport, and we race both just interchangeably. So we can have preferences, but you got to be able to do both. And then on top of that, we also ski down hills. So we have all the uphill, and then we've got to come down, and we can reach speeds of 70 kilometers an hour, navigating challenging technical downhills. Our heel isn't locked in, our heel is free, and we're on a lot skinnier ski than a typical alpine ski, and no metal edges. So definitely that's a challenging aspect that I think a lot of people might not realize until they put a pair of cross country skis on and try to walk around. Definitely adds extra elements to it, just apart from that aerobic fitness that we need to have.
Which, when you've got a sport where a sprint is what, like 10 kilometres? I mean, that's generally not what a lot of people would consider a sprint, right?
Yeah, so I prefer the sprint events. They're typically around 1.5 kilometres, so they take maybe around 2.5 to 3 minutes. But then again, in a sprint day, we do our time trial at the start, and then the top 30 skiers from that move on to heats. And each time between the heats gets shorter and shorter. So you might have an hour between the qualification and the first quarter final, but then between your semi-final and your final, it could be around 10 minutes. So if you're
Wow.
having a good day, you're going to end up racing that course 4 times. And it can end up, sometimes I'm skiing upwards of 30 kilometers on those days
Wow.
if I'm making my way through heat. So, it's a sprint, not quite like the 100-meter sprint from the Summer Games, which a lot of people are used to. It's quite a lot longer.
Is there a momentum side to that then too, obviously? If you're saying sort of as you're going through those with sort of gaps, like as you're saying, if you're having a really good day, can you build on that momentum and that kind of spurs you on as you go further and deeper into the rounds?
Absolutely, yeah. Like the head-to-head rounds, especially once we get through the time trial, that's on interval starts, and then we're in head-to-head rounds, and you might not have the best sprint, the best qualification in that time trial, but then you kind of get into head-to-head rounds, and all of a sudden you got this like new burst of energy, and I don't know, just skiing around people can just give you that extra 10-20%. And being able to be around and chase people down, it just kind of adds that extra element as well. So and again, it's getting into that flow as well, and that's why we do lots of races throughout our season, so that we get used to that kind of momentum of working our way through rounds, if that's where we're getting to, because it is a big day, and so you got to work out how you fuel, how you eating and drinking, and managing all of that, because you don't really want to get to the end and then just be absolutely cooked, and that's the end of it. So a lot of we try to train a lot for that, but it's always, and then again you just see what happens on the day.
Which I can then imagine your gym routine must be all over the place every single week. I mean, there's so many elements that you're saying there that I can imagine you've got to focus on when it comes to that physical aspect. I mean, what's a general gym week like for you?
Yeah, so I guess my gym sessions usually go for about an hour and a half each. So I tend not to do anything too crazy. I'm one of those body types that just looks at some weight plates and just puts muscle bulk on. I don't actually have to touch it. So I tend to err on the side of caution and do more like kind of functional strength, and do a lot of plyometrics to keep that explosiveness, which is like kind of key for sprinting. But then again, there's athletes who, will kind of go on the other end. I guess most of it's just working out what your body needs and finding something that works around that. So I'm really lucky to have a coach who, I've worked with for quite a number of years now, who understands how my body responds to training and reacts especially to the gym. And we've been able to make like a pretty solid program that means I'm not putting on extra muscle mass, because ultimately I'm just going to have to carry that up all the hills when I'm racing. So, so I think at the moment it's been working really well.
I can also imagine that, I mean, you're mentioning nutritionally. I mean, sort of what is a diet like for a cross-country skier? Like, and I'm guessing it differs right now coming into an Olympics as it would, say, when you're maybe not quite in certain seasons. I mean, lots of carbs, lots of things that kind of we're not thinking of when it comes to nutrition. Is it different for a cross-country skier versus some other sports out there that maybe people do connect as being similar?
Sure. I don't know, if you come and eat dinner with us and the boys on our team, you'd probably be amazed at the amount of food they can consume in a day. Like me and Jess, the other female here, we're constantly amazed about how much they eat. But yeah, we tend to make sure we have, plenty of carbs. So, whether that's like rice or pasta or like couscous or something like that. Protein in whatever form we decide that night. And then, typically if we're doing like longer sessions out skiing, it's really important that we're fueling when we're out skiing. So some people like bars. My kind of go-to is to always have a stash of gummy bears in my drink belt when I'm out training, and particularly on race day, they're kind of my go-to snack.
Nice.
So yeah, we make sure that we're fueling right, and it's fine to eat, some chocolate or chips or something like that every now and again. Moderation is key, but I don't think it would differ too much to what other athletes eat. I guess it just depends on how hungry you are at night.
I'm just liking this gummy bear aspect of the sport, that you can just kind of have this. It's a perfect excuse really to just, sneak them in and have a perfect snack while you're out there.
Yeah, it's great. They don't freeze, so they don't get too hard, but they're not like too soft, so they don't like fall apart in your drink belt. So yeah, it's like my perfect race day snack, to be honest.
Wow. And do you have potential then for sponsorship? Like we're thinking here, get enough exposure out there during Beijing that there could be some gummy bear companies listening right now that like you could be like Alyssa Camplin, she was for chewing gum. Here you are for, I don't know, Hasbro gummy bears or something like that.
Oh, I would love it. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Send them my
Yeah.
way. I'll do them.
Done. There you go. We're getting these sponsorships loaded up for you. You, I believe, went to, of all places, Alaska for college, which, I mean, that
Yep.
must have been an experience. Alaska's a great place, but I can imagine for college, that must have been very fun to be able to go there. And the Seawolves, I believe, is who you were with. So tell us about that experience.
Yeah, so yeah, I just kind of spent a season in America in 2014-15 season. I was skiing with a professional team in Sun Valley, Idaho, and while I was there and racing on like the American circuit, my coach was like, "Oh, you're doing quite well. You know, maybe you should look at doing college racing." And to be honest, I had no idea what that meant at all. And at US Nationals that year, he kind of lined up for me to meet a few coaches, and one of them was Andrew Casting, who was my coach at UAA, and met with him. And anyway, finished off that season, came back to Australia, and didn't get a whole lot of positive responses just because I was this Australian, wasn't really known for skiing, and not many. Well, there had only been one Australian cross country skier before me who had been through the college circuit from like coming from Australia. So wasn't much exposure, and anyway, kind of didn't really think much was going to happen with that. But then got through the end of the Australian season in 2015 and ended up getting this message out of the blue from Andrew again saying, "Hey, what are you doing in a month's time? Do you want to come to Alaska?" And I was like, "Oh, sure." So kind of just got everything in order and just jumped on the plane and headed up north. And I didn't really know what I was getting into, but just knew I wanted to ski. And at that point, I was studying at Victoria University, so knew I wanted to continue with my studies, and was like, well, this seems like a perfect opportunity for me to be a part of a team that's going to push me to develop as an athlete, and I can also get a university degree on the side. And wasn't really sure what I was getting into, so I was like, okay, well, I'll do a year, and if I'm not liking it, I'll just come home. And ended up doing 4 years and loved every single bit of it.
And then do you get used to the whole situation there where you're having, in the winter, obviously, barely any sunlight, and then in the summer, barely any day, well, the other way around, I should say, barely any daylight in the winter, and that, because, I mean, it's a unique thing that if you're not prepared for it, that it's kind of very strange, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Like literally the sun doesn't come up until 10:30 and it sets about 3:30. I guess the lucky thing for us is that we were out training every day, morning and afternoon. So unlike most people who literally just get up, go to work, come home, who actually don't see the sun at all for the whole day, we actually got outside, got to see it a little bit. I think the hardest time wasn't necessarily in the middle of winter. It was kind of in that fall, like late autumn period where we were still waiting for snow to come. But, it was really dark. There wasn't any snow on the ground. And then as soon as it snows, it starts reflecting a lot of light. And all of a sudden it's like, feels like it's, 10 times brighter than it was the day before. But yeah, during that period, we're losing about 5 minutes of daylight a day, which ends up being just over 30 minutes a week. So you kind of like go one week you're training at like, say 8 o'clock. It's like, oh, this is fine. And then, the next week, same time, you're like, oh, it's pitch black. Oh, this isn't ideal.
Yeah, I remember I was there in the summer, and I remember being out at a bar and basically having somebody come to you and say like, oh, we're closing. And you're like, well, it's brightest day. Like it must only be like 7, 8 o'clock at night. It was midnight. And you're like, oh, okay, better go then.
It's
strange.
just go through the day at night and then go, oh, I'm kind of hungry. I should probably make dinner. And it's like 10 o'clock. It's like, oh, I should probably go to bed.
Yeah, it's very, very strange there. But is that sort of a route that a lot of people, like you mentioned you're only sort of the second Australian in that system, but is it kind of a choice between, say, going to North America to do something like that or going to Europe? Or, I mean, kind of as an Australian cross-country skier, is there kind of more of a connection, say, with one over the other?
I guess, before I did go to Alaska, I did two seasons in Europe. And that's, they were my first trips, some of my first trips overseas. And then I decided to mix it up a bit, and then do that season in Idaho, and then went to college. For me, I was kind of, once I had exited the junior kind of ranks and was moving into U23/senior racing, a lot of the teammates who I had as on the junior team, they'd all kind of moved away from skiing. So I was finding that I didn't really have a big team around me. And so for me, that was like one of the key things I was looking for. Even though we are an individual sport, it is, having that team aspect is super valuable. And also I think, I knew I had these goals of where I wanted to get to in my career. And at that point, I wasn't really eyeing off the 2018 games. I was eyeing off these ones. And so I was like, okay, this is where I want to be in 2022. What do I need to do to get there? And for me, that was kind of the perfect opportunity where I could develop as an athlete, and then now like ski in the senior ranks on the World Cup and stuff like that. So I guess it depends like on the athlete and what they're looking for. I guess each way is fine. It just, really depends on what's going to be best for you.
One event you did before Pyeongchang, the Asian Games in 2017. Now, I mentioned bronze medalist in the women's sprint. Now, technically, though, you don't get a bronze medal, though, do you? Because Australia's invited and we're not allowed to win medals. Like, how is this fair? Like, do you have to argue your case here? It's like, I should get a bronze medal here. This isn't fair.
Yeah, that was definitely an interesting experience, like crossing the line and being super stoked to get the bronze. And at that point, we didn't know that we weren't allowed to receive medals. So anyway, I finished and I'm putting my clothes back on, and then I get promptly notified I have to go to doping control. I was like, okay, well, I've got like ceremonies first. And they're like, no. And I was like, I think I do. I just got third. And they're like, no, you got to come. I'm like, oh, hang on. And then we go down. It's like, no, you just get to pee in a cup and that's it for you. I was like, hey, thanks.
Wow. Which, like, it must just be such a, I mean, obviously you finished third. They can't take that away from you. But again, you don't get a medal. I mean, and it's not like you just finished third. You finished third by quite a significant distance, right? So it's kind of like, well, where's my medal? Like, it's kind of, I feel like there should be some sort of thing there where if they're inviting us to compete in the Asian Games, like if we're not eligible for medals, we should get something, right? I mean, do you get anything for finishing third?
I think like the kind of support staff were feeling really bad about the situation. So I think I ended up getting like one of the mascots as like the team got given like a couple of the mascots as a toy. And so I actually came home, and on my hotel, like in the hotel, my door was just covered with like bronze medalist Casey Wright lives here. So it was like really awesome to come back to see that. And then they're like, oh, here you go. Here's a soft toy. And I was like, sweet. Yeah, I guess like, medals are one thing, but, on the inside, that's what was more important for me. And to be able just to have that result and to feel the way I did on that day, it was kind of one of those days where everything just falls into place. And I think, that was definitely more valuable than, a medal when you think back on that.
Which, I mean, it's also, I can imagine that opportunity because unlike a lot of summer sports, there's not really a lot of multi-sport events for winter athletes. There's not a Winter Commonwealth Games, for example, and particularly for Australia, we don't really have a multi-sport. So to get invited to an event like that to, I guess, almost experience what it's like to be at a multi-sport environment, I mean, did that help you when it came to competing in Pyeongchang a year later to kind of understand what that environment's like if it's different to competing, say, in a World Cup or a World Championship?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously there's the multi-sport aspect, but with any kind of like Olympic or AOC run sponsored team event, there's a lot of other stuff that goes on in the background that you often don't see. And getting exposed to that, from an early point, and it was obviously an important event, but not kind of an Olympic Games standard. Just to have that experience was like super valuable, and also got to meet a lot of the support staff who were once again in Korea, and then I think a lot of them will be again in Beijing. So just to kind of start making connections, get to know faces, and just made my experience when I got to Korea like a little bit more familiar.
When it came to the Olympics, we always love hearing about the experiences outside of competing? You mentioned obviously your goal was Beijing. You kind of get a bonus Olympics going there, but do you remember sort of those initial moments landing in Korea? Like, I mean, was there a moment when it kind of hit you that you're an Olympian? This is real.
Yeah, I don't think so much landing because I traveled from America, whereas the rest of the team was traveling from Europe. So I kind of got to the airport and didn't know where I was going. There was not really anyone there. I think they were running late at that point. So I just kind of stood around the airport for a bit, just looking like a lost puppy, I think, and then like found my way. But yeah, honestly, I think it all really started to sink in, after that first event, after that sprint event. And unfortunately, I didn't quite have the results I wanted at those games, but I kind of looked at it as an opportunity to get that experience, especially something experience I can take into these games. But I think the most special moment of that was like actually after the race, because my parents and my brother were there and was able to jump up in the stands after the race and go up and see them. And I think that was like the really special moment for me. And looking back, like, that's when I was like, oh, okay, like this is real. And I got to share this with my family as well. So that was like that was a really awesome moment.
Kind of a bonus moment knowing that unfortunately they're not going to be able to be with you in Beijing. So it's sort of, you've been able to experience that. I mean, outside of competing, I'll talk about those in a moment, but I mean, village life, I mean, did you get to do any of the ceremonies? Did you get involved with things like pin collecting, bump into like, there's Chloe Kim and Shaun White, like you kind of, going around doing things like that to really soak up the Olympic experience?
Absolutely, yeah. So I only ended up racing 2 events, but I opted to stay for the entire period. And I'm really looking back, I'm really glad I did that, especially with kind of the COVID aspect of these games. But yeah, I made sure I went to the opening ceremony, closing ceremony. They were definitely highlights. I guess I didn't interact as much with like internationals. For me, it was just awesome to be a part of like the Australian contingent and get to know all of those guys. And we had just really good vibes in the village amongst us. And, we have the dining hall where all our food is, but we also had this like other lounge that the Australian team had set up. And, whenever you wanted something to do, you just kind of walk in there and there was always someone up for a chat or to hang out. And so that was a really cool experience. I guess I got a few pins, but wasn't super into that. I didn't come prepared with extra pins. So it's if you don't have like your stock, then it's pretty hard to get like super into it.
Are you rethinking that for Beijing, or is it again just not really? No,
like I didn't have any weight when I came over to Europe for extra stuff. I was like, my jacket, which I was carrying like on the plane, weighed about like 10 kilos of like all the other stuff that couldn't fit in my bag. So, really that wasn't on like the high list of priorities of stuff to fit in my bag. But, I think these games is going to be a lot different, especially with just, because we won't be like, we're not in Beijing, we're kind of out about, 4 hours out. So I think just getting to ceremonies is going to be a little bit more challenging. I will be doing more events this year. So, I'm probably not going to have as much freedom as I had last game. So, I think that's just really good to have been to a games previously and have kind of ticked off a lot of those boxes. And now it's like, okay, I've done that. Like, you're all good. You can just focus on the racing this time and not have that FOMO of missing everything else.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. We heard a lot of that from, say, the Tokyo athletes who experienced Rio, and they were told that Rio was going to be a weird game, that they look back on it now going, well, okay, well, it's kind of normal compared to what we then experienced in Tokyo. I mean, just on what you're saying about the team, obviously Australia, we've got 44 athletes going to Beijing. I think we had 45 in Pyeongchang from memory. So, I mean, it's obviously a very small team where you can kind of, I guess, connect with these athletes. And again, back to my point where, you don't really go to multi-sport events. So I can't imagine your tours and that you're interacting much with the snowboard team or, the freestyle skiing, the figure skaters, people like that. So it's an opportunity to, I guess, connect, hang out and share stories, because as Australians, we're obviously always in winter sports getting questioned, what the hell are you doing here? You're Australia, you have no snow. And I love that on your Instagram profile, by the way. I had to mention that. So, I mean, it's obviously a great opportunity to kind of just meet these people and hang out and just, all come together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, because I had been living, in America for basically 2.5 years at that point, it was just really good to get reacquainted with Australians and spend time there. So I honestly like that. That was like, definitely a fond aspect that I look back on. Like kind of everyone we got the opportunity to interact with. Love that bit.
Was there anyone in particular that maybe surprised you? Was there like does Scotty James like tell you a secret or something like that? Or, you've got like Kalani Crane like giving you figure skating tips or things like that, that you kind of just have to share today?
I don't think I got any like insider secrets. Definitely had a lot of fun with the bobsled boys. With the 4-man crew that was there, they were good value. And then it was also awesome just like because we had additional, like, there's 6 cross-country events, and although I wasn't competing, teammates were. So we were able to get big crews of like other Australians who had finished competing, and we would go and watch all the events. And so
great.
We had David Morris, Danielle Scott, Laura Peel, I don't know, everyone. There was
I can imagine David Morris coming to an event. That makes it extra fun having David there. Come on.
And I was just like, great. And, especially taking them to a cross-country event. They're like, ooh, this is not what we expected. It's like, you guys are insane. It's like, yeah, we know.
Wow. And did you then, on the flip side, given you owning the two, did you go and check out, did you go watch the aerials? Did you go check out some other sports that maybe you don't get a chance to see much?
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that I was like making sure, I was still training at that point. So I'd go and train in the morning, and then my afternoon was reserved for going and watching events. So I think we watched the aerials final, moguls, and then we ended up going to Gangnam where all the ice events were. And I don't think we had Australians competing there, but got to see the North Korean cheer squad at the short track and long track and ice hockey. So, just getting like opportunity to interact in all those different events was really cool. Because, as you said, cross country World Cup is just cross country. We don't really cross over with other sports. So, this is really the only opportunity where we get to connect with, all these other winter athletes from Australia.
And we're still just saying, you mentioned aerial finals. We're still not over David Morris getting robbed in Pyeongchang.
I know. It was very exciting to be there to watch it, but sad that we wasn't able to cross that
bullshit.
boundary.
It's still bullshit, okay? It's just bullshit. We're just still not over it. It's 4 years later. We're still not over it, okay? Just saying that. You got 63rd in the sprint and 81st in the 10K. Now, you mentioned it wasn't necessarily what you were hoping to achieve. Do you set yourself a goal? Like, do you kind of go into these events and you give yourself a minimum placing that you want to achieve? Is there a time that you kind of do, or is there like a mixture of both?
Yeah, time's not so much, just because our conditions can be so variable, and depending on, on the course, on the profile, like how much climbing and descent we have, and then also the snow conditions. We could do a 10K race, and I did a 10K early this season, which took 22 minutes. I've also done 10Ks that have taken almost 40 minutes to finish in poorer weather conditions. So we don't usually focus on the time aspect. As I said, for me, I prefer the sprinting events. And so the goal of any sprint is to make that top 30 cut, which means you get to progress in the finals. So, whether that's achievable or not, I'm, not quite sure, but that's the mindset I take into every race, and that's what I hope to achieve. And if not, then, I take stock of what I've done and focus on some positives and work out what I need to do to be faster next time.
But I can imagine, going back to where you're saying that it was never the goal for 2018, it was always 2022. So you've kind of got this bonus Olympics in your back pocket now. So you can go into your, what is now a second Olympics, which you maybe thought might have been your first Olympics, with that experience. You know what it's like. And now with additional events that you are doing this time around, do you go now into Beijing feeling better prepared, know what to expect, and what then sort of goals do you set yourself when it comes to the events you are taking place in?
Yeah, Jess and I were actually talking about this the other day when we were skiing, and just like how much more comfortable we were feeling now going into our second games than we felt 4 years ago. Yeah, I like thinking back then, like I was just like shitting my pants anytime I started thinking about like, oh, you're going to the Olympics. And I remember, on the day of my first event, because we were racing late at night, I was just kind of sitting in my room, just going, like my head just like going a million miles an hour. I remember Alyssa Camplin walked in, like, how you doing? I'm like, not good. She's like, all right, let's fix this. And just to be on that stage where like everyone is watching, and, Australia doesn't usually pay much attention to us on our usual races, and all of a sudden everyone's watching. So it's like, oh, yeah, hi, I'm here. But I guess, yeah, definitely like going in now, I think, as well as having that experience from Pyeongchang and, over 4 years, I feel like I'm a much more mature athlete than I was back then. So, kind of feel like a lot more I'm able to take in my stride. And I definitely think that once we get there and I'm on race day, the nerves will start coming back again. But hopefully I have a bit more of experience now to be able to not let them get as much to me as they may have had in the past. So I guess, that's kind of, it's invaluable, the experience that we had, from one games. And, a really close family friend said to me the other day that, he always thinks that athletes do better like their second world championships or world junior championships. So he's like, all right, well, you're at your second Olympics now, so there's no excuses. You just got to go for it. So,
Go for it.
So, yeah, thanks, Keebs, for that one. No excuses. It's just got to be better.
You mentioned that sort of the individual aspect of the sport. Obviously, there is the team sprint. How enjoyable is that? I'm guessing you're doing that with Jess. So, is it sort of a unique opportunity where you can add a team aspect to it? And is it something that you, I don't want to say enjoy more than the individual side of things, but enjoy, I guess, in a different way that you can have that experience with Jess, given that you're teammates and you can be in the one event together?
Yeah, team sprint is definitely an interesting event. So basically we do our sprint course, but we tag off in between. So we each race it 3 times, so 6 times total. So that you tag off. So you only get about, 3 or however long it takes your partner to ski the course as recovery. Enjoyable is an interesting term because probably one of the hardest races you'll ever do. Jess and I did our first team sprint together back in 2015 at the World Championships. And I remember us both thinking at the end of that, like, oh my God, I thought I was going to die by the time I got to my last lap. So, but it is great to have, that team aspect and, to be out there suffering with someone else who's feeling the same way always like helps lessen the pain. But yeah, it is a really fun event to do. It's just like, a different aspect of skiing. And, we don't have a lot of team events. We have, the team sprint and the relay. And unfortunately, we don't have 4 women, so we can't start a relay. But, team sprint's kind of the next best thing. So, that's definitely going to be an event that I'm really looking forward to for these games. And, going to embrace that kind of pain and, type 2 fun, I guess you could say.
Embrace the pain. There's a T-shirt you could sell, get it out there to kind of, get some fundraising there. One of the events I love when it comes to cross country, just the name itself, the Ski Athlon. That itself just sells it in itself. Explain to us the Ski Athlon. Is it as awesome as it sounds just with that name? And is that an event that, we really should be keeping a close eye on?
Yeah, well, I personally won't be competing in the Ski Athlon because that's going to be before the sprint. So I've decided to focus on the sprint, but Jess will definitely be competing. And I think Phil might be competing for the men. So definitely keep an eye out on that one. But yeah, so before I mentioned that there's like 2 different techniques in skiing, in cross-country skiing. So there's the classic and the skate. And usually we either race one or the other. And so in Korea, we had a classic sprint, whereas this year in Beijing, we're going to have a skate sprint. So they usually like alternate what events we do, except for the Ski Athlon where they decide, let's just do both events together in the one race.
Wow.
So You start off classic skiing, and for the women, they do 7.5 kilometre legs, so 7.5K classic and then a 7.5K skate. But the men do 15 kilometre classic and then a 15 kilometre skate. And then so everyone starts at the same time, so it's a mass start event. So they could be up to, I'm guessing there may be around 70 men racing in this event. So, 70 people all go off at the same time. We are lined up, so it's not just a free-for-all carnage. But there
Demolition
definitely
derby.
And then, so you start off on the classic leg and you finish that, like whatever distance you need to do. And then you go into our special exchange zone, and before that you have your skis in the box. So you have your skis and poles there. So you ski in, you take your classic skis off, put your skis on, you change your poles, and you keep going. So,
wow.
It's not one of my preferred events. I will admit my Ski Athlon experiences have not been the most pleasant experiences of my life. So not super sad to be missing this one, but it definitely does add that extra excitement element, I guess, especially if you're watching and there's a really strong classic skier who's doing well in the classic leg, and then the skaters get to shine in the second leg. So, in terms of a spectator, it's definitely one of those sports that's good to watch.
I get the athlon now. It's like triathlon, kind of you're doing
Yeah.
I was going to ask, is it one of these events where you can start off on the skate and finish on the classical, but you've obviously got to do it in order, so you can't sort of alternate and just turn it up a little bit halfway through the event.
No. So it's all set. And then usually we ski in like either a skate boot or a classic boot, but we can't really just use a skate boot while classic skiing or a classic boot while skate skiing. So they make lovely Ski Athlon boots, which are not the best for classic and not the best for skate. They're somewhere in the middle, so you just kind of have to make do with it. So, it's very interesting sport. And then, the changeover, there's all different rules with that, whereas, nothing can leave your box, but you're also, unless they put carpet down, you're standing on a slippery surface, so you gotta take your skis off without them sliding away and all this stuff. So changeover time is definitely an entertaining bit as well.
Sounds like it. Definitely keep an eye on that. I mean, just in terms of, I guess, going in there with goals, sort of as you were talking about, Barbara got 33rd in the 10K back in Pyeongchang, which I believe is the best result ever by an Australian female at an Olympics. Is that something that you look at and think in any event that it would be great to top 33rd to create an Australian sort of record at an Olympics, or is that something that comes secondary versus, say, setting yourself other goals, and if that happens, that's obviously a bonus?
Yeah, I don't think I go out to kind of set groundbreaking achievements for Australia. I'm there. I'm so proud to be representing my country, but then also wanting to be able to have the achievements that I'm proud of. So, obviously it'd be great to be able to have the highest result for an Australian skier. But if I've had a good race as well, that's not going to be the determining factor of how I kind of feel about that race.
I would love to know what it is about the Norwegians and this sport, Casey, because seriously, every time the Olympics roll around, I swear all their 50 gold medals they win are all in cross country and biathlon. I mean, is there something that you feel is in the water in Norway, and are they very open? Can you go to the Norwegian team and just be like, hey, from Australia, we're not Norway when it comes to cross country. If you help me out in cross country, then we'll reciprocate. We'll help you in swimming, come the Summer Olympics or something like that. Can we make a deal with the Norwegians when it comes to cross country skiing to help us out a bit?
Oh, I don't know. I have to say, I've had some interactions with them, not a huge amount. On World Cup, we kind of just get put into accommodation and not always in the same hotels as them. The times I have stayed with them, I've typically been the solo Australian, and they kind of just accept me as this lonely person, oh, come sit with us. I'm like, oh, thanks. So that's generally my interactions with them. But yeah, I think there's just the culture around that in Norway, and you talk to most Australians and say you're a cross country skier, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Whereas you go there and every man and their dog is out cross country skiing every day after work. So it's just a very different cultural aspect, and potentially there's something in the water. Who knows?
Well, just Norway's starting to scare me a bit, because we just saw in Tokyo that they're doing well in summer sports now too. They're winning triathlons, they're winning, athletics events. And I know as Australians, we win winter events, but not to the extent that Norway are doing it. Like, it's just, I don't know. I feel like there needs to be some sort of balance going on here, that like Norway can't become the new USA and Russia and Germany and dominate both. Like, Norway has the Winter Olympics. They can't have both, Casey. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I totally agree. But I think we did pretty well for ourselves in Tokyo. So
absolutely.
I think
absolutely.
we've definitely given ourselves a bit of a buffer at the moment. And so hopefully you can hold us off to maybe the next Summer Games. Yeah,
good point. Good point when it comes to that. I'd love to know, I remember when we spoke to Callum a little bit, I was talking to him about Nordic Combined. I'm a big Nordic Combined fanboy, and we have had one competitor back in 1960, the great Hal Nadal, a Norwegian who came to Australia, of course, and competed for Australia. Mm-hmm. Is there ever a temptation that you could pick up a bit of ski jumping on the side and then bring back the great Nordic Combined sport for Australia come Milan? Like, any potential there for that, Casey?
Oh, I don't know if I'd be able to go off those jumps. They're insane. Like, I also think I'm probably a bit too heavy to be a good jumper. I don't think I'd be making it very far. So probably not the best person to be asking to do that. But we have had some other athletes. We have Ben Sim and Jackson Bursell, probably about eight years ago, maybe. Who were doing a bit of Nordic Combined. We have had some who have tried to jump, but it's kind of hard when we don't have access to ski jumps in Australia. So it's not really something we can kind of get the juniors, really pumped up about when they physically can't do it.
Not too much. Well, we had a couple of
cross country, and then if they decide to defect over there, then they can go.
It works. Yeah, we had a couple of US and Canadian ski jumpers on recently, and ski jumping is, now that we've got Tali and Dean in curling, ski jumping is the only winter sport that Australia has never had an athlete in. So I'm thinking that if we get maybe some of you guys across to the Nordic Combined, get practicing on the ski jumping, have one Olympics in Nordic Combined, and then go, okay, come 2030, we can create the history, and I will be Australia's first ever ski jumping athlete. So, whether that's yourself, whether, you can get Jess on board or any of the other guys. Like, I'm thinking of these history-making avenues that could potentially be for somebody out there from Australia.
Yeah, like I love the attitude. Like, that's great. I think you just got to find that special person that just loves pointing their skis straight, going really fast, and then launching into the air. Good luck with that endeavour.
Yeah, no, thank you. And also the other endeavour too, as a proud Tasmanian, we are the only state or territory never to have had a Winter Olympian. So again, I'll put my hand up. I'll be the ski jumping athlete from Tasmania, tick off 2 boxes all at once, Yeah,
I'll teach you how to cross country ski, so then you can get the Nordic Combined. There we go.
Exactly.
Very easy.
Perfect. I never like to share my skiing story, which I lasted like 10 seconds and wimped out when I did go skiing one time. But hey, look, I can practice that. I can see how it goes out. Before wrap up with some get to know you style questions, one thing that I like learning about you is that you're into crochet and you like to make headbands. How does this come about? And is this, do you have like an Etsy store where people can check out your headbands, or do you make them for your teammates? Kind of what goes on with that?
Yeah, I think we were in Sweden, quite a few years ago, and just kind of bored. So we went down to the supermarket and found some wool and a crochet hook, and just loaded YouTube and just taught ourselves how to crochet. And it's definitely something I just kind of do during my recovery time. Just just to keep myself busy. I haven't really sold many, but I also don't want to like talk up my skills. I can literally only do straight lines. So I'm not that talented as like a lot of other people are who can do like fancy patterns and make hats. Definitely not that good. And apparently I've taught myself how to do it left-handed. I guess because I was just mirroring YouTube. And not the person to ask to teach you either. I am very, very like robust in my skills in that I can make a headband and that's about it.
Well, I think do a Tom Daly. Sit in the stands when you're not competing and just crochet. You know, he got a lot of attention knitting in the stands. So you could be doing that. You could be the crocheting cross-country skier.
He was knitting a pouch for his medal. And that looked a bit more intricate than anything I'll ever be able to do.
You can knit a headband for your medal, Casey. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
big.
that's what it needs.
You know, we know all the Norwegians are going to have an off game now that we're putting the Mickey on them. So, you know,
for sure.
Exactly. They'll all catch COVID. No Norwegians will be there at the Olympics. And then, boom, Australia's in with the chance. We can do it.
Well, it sounds like a few of them might have actually just tested positive. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. Yeah.
Oh, all right. We definitely have a chance. Come on. All right. This is what you get, Norway. Don't be good at summer. You jinx yourself in your actual events. Another thing, actually, too, we often have a question when it comes into our final questions. But I saw you're a bit of a Richmond supporter, Casey. Now, I bring this up. I'm not a Richmond supporter, but I've always have a soft spot for the Tigers just because generally they're the team that you kind of feel sorry for because they never won. But now that you've won so much, it's weird that there's cocky Richmond supporters. Like, I don't know. Is that a thing that you notice now as a Richmond supporter, that people aren't as friendly to you as they maybe were like 5 years ago when they maybe felt sorry for you back then?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe. I guess like I spent like a lot of that time where like, you know, Richmond was winning in Alaska and trying to convince my teammates that AFL was a real sport and that they should be barracking for the Tigers, and majority of like, oh, we're watching rugby. I'm like, no, it's very different. Not the same sport. It's like rugby it is. I'm like, give up. But yeah, so I don't know, like maybe we don't get quite as much sympathy votes, but you know, I wouldn't say I'm like a diehard AFL follower. Like I definitely like watching a game and you know, do support the Tigers. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're just all jealous.
Yeah, well that's it. I mean, look, I'm a Carlton supporter, and growing up, you know, we did well. Now we don't. So I feel people feel sorry for us now, and that's weird. It's like, well, we're generally pretty good. Don't feel sorry for us. So yeah, we'll get there eventually. Now, Casey, as I said, we like to wrap up series of get to know yourself questions. As always, these are based on a questionnaire that was given to Team Canadian athletes ahead of Pyeongchang and also Rio. They didn't have any cross-country skiing athletes for me to use their questionnaire, so I've gone with Erin Malinsky. I'm probably butchering her name completely, an alpine skier. So kind of as close to get. As I always say in these, if you feel up to it, there is a drawing element. You don't have to, but
I don't think I have any drawing implements with me.
Look, it can be homework. You can do it this afternoon and send it in to us. Yeah, with a couple of the bobsled girls did it. So, you know, just if you're keen,
you
all right.
See my artistic skills come shine.
There you go. Exactly. I like this. All right. Well, I'll tell you what they are in a moment, but we'll start off with the first question. Your favorite ever Olympic moment is?
Oh, I think it's going to have to be Alyssa Camplin's gold medal in the aerials in Salt Lake.
Great answer. I like it. Is it something that when you first meet her, going back to what you're saying, like, do you fangirl out a little bit? Do you have to ask her a million and one questions about it? And just, does she reciprocate? Does she answer everything that you're going to ask her?
I guess like my fangirling is like kind of like deer in the headlights situation where it's like, ooh, you're there, I'm here, like we're near each other. So that's kind of how I respond. But you know, she obviously just has like so much experience, you know, and is just so happy to be that mentor figure. And you know, we'll pick up on like your mildly freaking / fangirling out, and it's like, it's okay, calm down, like let's meet. Yes. So just a great human to be around for sure.
Fantastic. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Oh, definitely be flying. Flying, hands down.
I'd always like to know, like, if you could fly, like, do you just, I'm bored, it's, 8:00 on a Wednesday, I'm just going to bugger off to Prague or something like that? Or is it just one of these things that you strategically use, right? Like, I
guess
don't
it
know.
depends how fast you can fly,
True. That's very true.
Hopping off to Prague might be more than just like at 8:00 on a Wednesday night kind of.
Yeah. Like if you're
vibe.
Superman speed, sure, but if you're like flying, like
Like a
60
bird,
k's an hour,
like
yeah,
if
well,
you do, yeah.
yeah. And then it's also a case of, is it acceptable? Like, are people staring, going, "Oh my God, there's a woman flying," or is it just kind of like, "Oh, that's just Casey. There she is, just having a fly." All the questions that are around that. Your favorite sports movie is?
Ooh, I think it's probably The Art of Flight, which is like a
Ah,
snowboarding documentary,
yep.
which was my favorite growing up and would always love to watch it. And then a lot of it's actually filmed in Alaska, which I never kind of cued in on until I like was moving to Alaska and I watched it again. I was like, oh, I'm going there. That's amazing. And
Wow.
that kind of like made me really want to go there even more. So yeah,
Great.
definitely The Art of Flight.
I always like to compare, think about other, athletes we're talking to if they've got movies based on their sport. And if I can't think of one off the top of my head, I always just go to James Bond and think, has James Bond done it? I mean, James Bond's done biathlon, which is half cross country, and he skied a lot. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of counts, right? Like we can take it.
Sure. Yeah, there's a winter aspect.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it works. I mean, is that biathlon versus cross country? Is there like a real strong rivalry between them? I know we've had some biathletes on recently, and we kind of asked the other way around. But like, what do cross country skiers think of biathletes?
I don't think there's a huge rivalry between us. Like we're pretty similar. It's just that they like to shoot in the middle of their
Yeah.
races where we just like ski. Yeah, like I don't know, like I got to go on a biathlon range a few years ago and I hadn't actually been on one or like shot a rifle and had to go at shooting and I couldn't believe like how small the targets were. I was like, how do you guys do this like in the middle of a race? Like, so definitely like, yeah, mad respect to them to be able to do that. It kind of like was very eye-opening.
I always think the Nordic combined needs to get rid of cross country and make a biathlon to add it even more difficult, right?
Ooh.
Like just three sports in one. The winter
No,
version of the modern
there's your
pentathlon.
triathlon. There you go.
Yeah, well, exactly right.
With
So
the triathlon.
just saying, ISE, if you're listening, you can have that idea. Now, the first picture element, draw a picture of yourself. So there you go. It can be in any form here. I can see Erin's drawn a picture of her on a stand-up paddleboard. So, I don't
Okay,
know if,
all right.
yeah. Remember that one. Your funniest childhood memory is?
Not as a drawing element, as a talking.
No,
Yeah.
this is go for it now. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, you can draw it if you want to afterwards.
No,
but
that's
I mean-
okay. I was like, oh, I don't know, I'm going to draw this. Yeah, so as I said, my parents are outdoor ed teachers. And so me and my brother, we grew up on school camps. So, yeah, we grew up in the Yarra Valley and we were living on Melbourne High School's school camp where my dad was running. And I think one day we were playing on the Flying Fox. So dad set it up and we were having fun going up and down. And yeah, our dog at the time, Abby, she was like just a typical camp dog, would just like roam the grounds and just loved life. She was a black lab and we hadn't seen her for a bit. That wasn't uncommon anyway. So we hadn't seen her for a little bit longer and so we were starting to get a bit worried. So we were calling out, trying to find her and we just heard these muffled barks and we're just like, what is this? And worked out it was coming from underneath our feet and we're just like, what is happening? She'd actually like gone in a wombat burrow and would just made it all whole way in till she'd found the wombat and was just
Wow.
barking at it underground. So then ended up being a bit of the rescue mission of dad trying to get into the wombat burrow to pull the dog out.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, a little bit stressful at the time because we're just going to have to like dig from the top to get her out, but ended up all good in the end.
Wow. Good news. All right. Wow. Jeez. That's a very Australian story too, just burrowing for
Very
wombats.
Australian for sure.
Yeah, I like that. Your favourite pump-up song is?
Ooh, I've got like a pretty good playlist, but I guess at the moment, honestly, Client Liaison is kind of my favourite. So I think the real thing at the moment has been played on repeat quite a bit before any interval sessions. So
Nice.
yeah, that's at the top of my playlist of my pump-up tunes heading into Beijing.
And is that, so you've got the AirPods in beforehand, just kind of getting yourself in the zone, or is it more of a you do that before you get out onto the course?
Yeah, like definitely, like, when you're getting changed and you're putting your race suit on, like before we leave, like that's definitely a good opportunity to have some good tunes playing, and then the drive there. I usually don't ski with headphones in. Just there's too much going on. I
Can
don't want to
you?
get
Are
like
you
run
allowed
over
to?
by a Norwegian or anything like
Yeah,
that.
well, yeah,
So
well, you know what the Norwegians are like, right? But
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
So
are you allowed
yeah.
to have
Oh, we
headphones
can't
in?
race in them, but you can warm up in them for sure.
Right. Okay. Is there
Yeah.
much sledging involved, be it on the course or like in the lead up? And if so, like, is it the Norwegians? Are the Norwegians the ones who are doing? I'm just shitting on all the Norwegians today, apparently. But
Yeah. Not so much sledging, I guess. I think there's always banter. Like I think the Brits like to have a few digs at us, and that's always fun. But
really,
um,
okay.
yeah, they're good in that.
What,
um,
what is it about the Brits that make them want to, like, do they just, is it just that British-Australian rivalry? Or, I mean, I can't imagine the Brits are that great at cross-country skiing. They're only good on ice sports in the Winter Olympics.
no, like they're actually quite strong at cross country, and definitely potentially could be medal potentials in these
Really?
games. Yeah,
Wow,
so they've got
okay.
got three guys, and they're very strong. So don't be surprised if there's some Brits up near that
I
podium
don't
at
know if I
least.
can accept that. I'm sorry. Like, it's all well and good for me to say about the Norwegian summer sports, but Britain winning medals in cross-country skiing? Like, I mean, what is the world coming to? Come on.
Ooh. Yeah, but I guess like out on the course as well, like especially in the mass start events, you're skiing quite close to everyone, and if you're skiing on someone's poles or hitting their skis or anything like that, the skier in front of you will be more than comfortable to turn around and tell you to like f off or whatever in whatever language they have. So yeah, like you just gotta like put up the brave face and not want to cry when someone's yelling at you for doing the wrong thing. It's like I didn't mean to. But yeah, so yeah, usually the on course mics don't pick up on that, but yeah,
Lip read.
they're
We need to lip read, basically, what's
yeah, lip
being
read.
said.
You can see it sometimes
Okay,
if
all right.
someone's been a pain to the skier in front of them. They will turn around and let you know about it.
Wow. I bet you learned some great swear words in different languages then kind of
It's a
pretty
good
quickly.
place to learn for sure.
Yeah, wow. The Scandinavian word for fuck is probably, very much on the tip of the tongue. The most recent TV show that you binge watched is?
Ooh, I'm kind of like I like to stick to the classics, and for me that's The Office, and I pretty much just have that on repeat all the time. That's my comfort zone, and especially the last few weeks where it's been a little bit stressful with like selection, and now leading like final training preparations and just trying to avoid COVID in every possible way. Just kind of find comfort in The Office.
Now, is this US or UK or a bit of
Oh,
both?
US. Yeah, yeah, no.
US?
Oh, yeah, US all the way.
Which, when we had Tali and Dean on, they're big Friends fans, and we're trying to get them to go viral by being the curlers who drop Friends quotes. You could be the cross-country skier who drops Office quotes. So, just saying,
Yeah,
that's what she
yeah.
said as you're bumping into someone. I don't know, like, you could just drop some of these things along the way, go viral.
Yeah, I'll definitely try.
Yeah, exactly. Fit it in wherever you can. Your least favorite foods are?
um, uh, Probably have to be tomatoes.
Ah, yes.
Don't mind them in things, but just can't deal with them
Yep.
anywhere else.
Yep. No, I'm with
Yeah,
you there. Just
yeah. Oh,
and
and
it's
sultanas. Yeah,
oh really?
don't
Okay, interesting.
that.
The
Yeah,
thing that's bothering about tomato is when, say, if you order a burger or a sandwich and it's got all the ingredients right, but there are some places that think tomato is obviously a staple, so they don't need to list it as an ingredient. So then you get
yeah.
it,
Then you have to
and
pull it out.
and you're
Yeah,
like, dude, like this wasn't on your ingredients list. I would have asked for it without tomato if I knew it was in it. Like it's
yeah,
just
absolutely.
yeah, because it gets everywhere. It's all the juices and just yeah. No, I'm
No,
completely with you there. If
just
you
crap.
weren't, yeah, absolutely. If you weren't an athlete, what would you be?
Ooh, um, hmm. don't know. I'd probably just be a beach bum, I reckon.
Too much snow in your life.
Yeah, like honestly, like I'm just getting to the point now. It's like, oh, I'm sick of being cold. I just want some summer. Like, got 3 weeks left of winter, and then I'm going and just sitting on the beach
Yeah,
and surfing every day. So,
going that way.
yeah, I think it's kind of hard. I think I would be an athlete anyway, like some kind of sport, because that's pretty much all I do, apart from like working or study or whatever. Like that's where you find me if I'm not at home.
Well, you get into the surfing enough. Paris 2024, Los Angeles 2028. Yep. You could be a dual Olympian, dual winter summer, Olympian. Join the select group of people that have done that for Australia. So
yeah,
options there. Options. Your favorite vacation spot is?
Ooh, wouldn't say I've been on like a huge amount of holidays recently, but probably the last holiday I went on was to Queenstown in New Zealand, and so I think New Zealand. I'm dual citizen with Australia and New Zealand. My mum's a Kiwi, so
right.
That holds a special place in my heart. So I think that's probably where I'm going to head to when borders open and I can finally go on holiday. But then again, I think anywhere where there's a beach as well. Don't want to be like too picky.
Yeah. Just if you ever run for politics, make sure you disclose that you're a dual citizen. We don't want that.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Yeah. Does New Zealand try and do they try and steal you away? Have they tried to get you to come compete for them at an Olympics?
No. Well, yeah, Australia, skiing in Australia is quite small, and then skiing in New Zealand is even smaller. So, yeah, so not yet, but who knows? Maybe next games I'll wear silver fern.
go, as long as you've worn the green and gold first, and it's not Britain. It's not Britain.
No, it's
Come on
not.
now. Or Norway. We're working that one out. What's something that people usually describe you as?
Ooh, I guess it depends who you're asking, but I think like a majority of my friends just think I'm just slightly insane for the training and every kind of punishment I put my body through. Yeah, I think they've kind of accepted that that's me, and they're just like, oh, don't worry, that's just Casey doing her thing. Just, let her go. She'll be back at some point. So, yeah, I think, I like to, think of myself as just kind of like that, easygoing, enjoying what I do and enjoying doing it with people too.
Slightly insane as well.
Slightly insane.
I enjoy that. The next drawing for you to mark down is draw a place from your hometown, or they say province being Canada, but obviously that would be state. Yeah. So draw a place from your hometown or home state. So.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, that's actually the first time I've seen that one as an option. And I'll tell you one thing, Erin's done a pretty good job of this. It's like a lake with leaves and trees and done very good job here. So pressure.
I think one of my teammates has, he got given a painting, like a $1 painting kit that you give to kids for Christmas from our Secret Santa. So maybe I have to borrow his paints and
you might.
do a picture.
It's bound to come in handy someday. And now here's the day. Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, this is perfect. We kind of touched on this in some way. If you could be an Olympian in any other sport besides your own, what would it be?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to have to go back to surfing.
Yeah.
I think, an opportunity just to follow, to live on the beach and surf every day. It's pretty awesome.
Tahiti for Paris, of course. So I mean, not a bad spot to go, and don't know where they're going to be. Don't know what they're going to be doing in LA, but I can't imagine they're going to be struggling to find a beach in California somewhere to do some surfing. So
I think they'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Brisbane. I mean, again, similar issue. Which beach do they choose, basically? So yeah, exactly. Pick any of them there. Now the last worded question. There's one more drawing element, but your guilty pleasure. Like this isn't just food. This is anything. What is your guilty pleasure?
Ooh. I think I'm going to have to just resort back to food, and that's definitely chocolate.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm that person who can like survive when I don't like if I don't have it, but if I get it, then I'll just eat the whole block at once. No
What's your
self-control.
guilty? What's your favorite sort of block that you go to?
Oh, top deck, Cadbury's top deck.
Ooh,
Yeah,
ooh, yes.
yeah,
Good answer. Wow,
yeah.
jeez. Wow, I always ask these questions and I get hungry. It's my own fault really for doing it. The last picture element, the drawing, is draw a picture of your favorite animal. And Erin's drawn an
Ooh,
elephant. Again, another great picture. She's done a very good job of this elephant. But so just
okay. All right.
pressure. You got it
Challenge
locked?
accepted.
All right. I'm looking forward to seeing these. Casey, before we let you go, people want to follow you during Beijing and beyond, social media, websites, anything along those lines where people can sort of stay up to date with your progress and everything else?
Yeah, probably Instagram. Instagram is the best go-to. So it's the letter K, C dot Wright. And yeah, you can follow along there. I try to put up a bit of what we do as cross-country skiers, and then kind of all the other fun adventures I like to have along the way.
Great. I saw some of the videos recently from just the squad in general. I mean, it looks like all of you are having a blast being named to the team. So I think this is something that, as Australians watching Beijing, we need to keep a close eye on all six of you, because you look like you guys are the life of the party. I mean, snowboarders and freestyle skiers, oh, look at them doing fancy tricks. Get on board team cross-country skiing. That's what I say.
Yeah. The boys recently released a little music video. We have been known in the past to release some. A few years ago there was a Katy Perry "I Kissed a Girl" parody. So if you do want to like have a good laugh, jump on YouTube. And yes, all under AusXC, or Australian Cross Country Ski Team. And
Oh, we'll find it.
they recently put out a new one, so they're hoping for it to go viral. So this is my plug for them.
We'll help it out. We'll put it up on our socials just so it can go out there a little bit as well. So absolutely get on board with it. Casey, in all seriousness, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Obviously, so close to the games. We really do appreciate giving us your time in a moment where obviously things are getting very hectic for you and about to go into competition zone. But best of luck for everything into these Olympics. We're really looking forward to seeing you and the entire Australian cross-country team and the entire Australian Olympic team, of course, compete. And we'll get you back on and we'll talk about beating all the damn Norwegians. Let's just say it that way.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.